Welcome back once again to Tim's Vinyl Confessions, continuing our Y&T Deep Dive series. Myself, Tim Durling, and John the Music Nut. John, thanks once again for helping me dive into one of the best, most reliable catalogs you're going to go back into. And this time around, we are going into the sixth Y&T album, In Rock We Trust, released 1984. And in my episode where I did my personal top 10 albums from 1984, this one came in number one. It's not my favorite Y&T album, but it was my favorite one from 1984, which had a lot of competition, I might add, because it's a great year in music.
Yeah, mine was not. I'm sorry to interrupt, Tim, but it was number two for me, and I put it in the comments in your episode.
Yeah, basically, it's tough to beat, right? Like it's
Absolutely.
and I would have to say this is one time where the world agreed because it was the biggest Y&T album, most successful. It peaked at number 46 on the Billboard album chart. And this is actually a Canadian copy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is significant because it's the only Y&T album that charted up here in Canada. It's the only thing they ever had that charted in Canada. Not even Summertime Girls charted. And I've looked.
Yeah.
I thought it would have at least hit the top 100, but In Rock We Trust peaked at number 78 on the RPM charts in September of 1984. And it makes sense because it's the Y&T album that I've come across the most in looking for. You don't see Y&T used a lot, but I've seen more copies of In Rock We Trust than any other Y&T record. So it makes sense that it got into the most hands. And another thing that's significant about In Rock We Trust is this CD, which I haven't had too long. This is an original U.S. A&M CD of In Rock We Trust. It's the only one of the A&M albums that they put out on CD. It's the same. It looks the same as the original Japanese issue. It's got all the lyrics and credits. So this kind of speaks to the success of it because CDs were relatively new in 1984. This is probably because of that. It's probably one of the oldest CDs I own. Right. And I just had to have a copy of it. So, yeah, I mean, they were really making strides. I think with a re-audit, I have to think, John, that in 40 years, 50,000 other copies of this have sold. Because when you think about, Y&T fans being scattered all over the place, but in the U.S., I mean, most of us buy. I know I'm in Canada, but I bought a lot of stuff because I grew up on the U.S. border.
Yes.
So my first copy of In Rock We Trust was this cassette, and this is obviously American. So see a lot of these pop up. There had to have been more of us that, enough of us to buy that to tip it over 500,000. I just have to believe that. And I think it means more to the fans than it does to the band themselves. I'm sure Dave Meniketti doesn't care if he has a gold record on his wall, but boy, it'd be kind of cool to find out they actually qualified and certified for a gold record because they deserve it. But and given the fact also it being the most popular, I've got two different Canadian cassettes of it. Very similar but different. So this is the first one. And cassette there. There's also a white variant of that. And the reissue, which had the old chromium dioxide added to it. And also had a 7 added to the catalog number, which means it sold enough to be issued a second time. So to me, that tells me something.
Right.
This album was produced by Tom Allom, who at the time was just coming off a string of successful albums for Judas Priest. He also produced Def Leppard's On Through the Night, their first album. He would go on to produce he produced Loverboy, which is odd. He produced the only album in the 80s that wasn't produced by Bruce Fairbairn, Loving Every Minute of It.
Yes, that's true.
I believe he started out as an engineer, so he worked on some early Black Sabbath stuff. I don't know. I'm probably blanking out. What else did Tom Allom produce? I'm throwing a blank here.
And I looked into that for another show I did, and right now I'm kind of blanking out as well. I could probably look really
Seems
quick
to me he produced Rough Cut, that band.
Oh, I remember Rough Cut.
I could be wrong about that. I was thinking Black and Blue, but it's not Black and Blue because that was Dieter Dierks and then Bruce Fairbairn and then Gene Simmons. So, but he was right in the wheelhouse of all of these types of bands. And I think he was a good choice for this album. It was definitely the most commercial sounding album that they'd put out to date.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a very good reason it sold more copies than anything that they'd put out previously, or sadly anything they would put out, but it should have done so much better. I mean,
I agree.
They only A&M could have an album handed to them like this and not at least take it over gold. I mean, I don't know. I know there were ads for it, but I just, tried to figure out what was missed here, because that's the recurring theme in my Y&T book. What was it that kept them from being one of the biggest bands? Because it wasn't the music. So let's get into the music. Another thing I do want to point out first, though, is this always kind of bugged me about the way that the lyrics were written in the credits. All of the lyrics, every single word is capitalized. And I've never understood why that is. It was a strange decision on the part of the record company. That's what the record itself looked like. But anyway, so yeah, definitely a more commercial sounding album. It still has some heavy songs on it, and I think the band was just firing on all cylinders at this point. So first track, and I have I believe a UK single, Rock and Roll is Gonna Save the World. So they just repurposes the album artwork, which once again, for the third time in a row, was done by John Taylor Dismukes, featuring Rock the Robot. There's the album, and the B-side is actually Forever. For some odd reason, they went back. Now, Rock and Roll is Gonna Save the World. I mean, it's an anthem. Your thoughts on this one, John?
Oh, what a fantastic anthem. And before we really get into it, I would like to say I bought this in 1985.
Yep.
This was my, see if we can come out a little bit better here, but this was my gateway into Y&T. Actually, my gateway, and I talked about this on Tim's channel when we tried to convince Mike Lodano to be a Y&T fan.
We did it.
Yeah, and we did. Yes, we certainly did. I discovered them on a compilation by K-Tel called White Hot Masters of Metal.
Yeah.
And the song Don't Stop Running was on there, and they shortened version. They shortened the solo on it. But I heard that, and I got it for Christmas in 84. Then I started seeking them out. I had just joined BMG Music Service. And this I bought in 85. And a few months later, I would buy Open Fires as a new release. So there's, for people like us who've been collecting music for decades, that Gateway album will have this sentimental thing. It might always be your favorite, but then there's some albums that might be one that you discover, and then you go back to the catalog, and then you say, oh, this one I like more. But to me, this has always been my favorite, and not just because it was my gateway. It's because I think it's their best album. I think this is the album that should have broke them. I think this has to be a gold album, not just because of that little bit of exposure on MTV, but American Bandstand.
Oh. Yeah,
American Bandstand at this time. They were getting tours with a peak Twisted Sister. It was a co-headline. Instead, except for when they played the East Coast and Twisted Sister would headline. Twisted Sister were huge on the East Coast,
yeah.
even before they had a record label.
Yeah.
So yes, this should be a gold album, and I would love it to be gold because I would love for the families of Leonard Hayes, Joey Alves, and Phil Kennemore get that gold album under.
That's a really good point. That's an excellent point. Yeah, yeah.
And Dave, of course, too. But Dave's still with us, and the rest of them are not.
And you've already mentioned the On With the Show, the excellent Y&T documentary, which I cannot recommend enough. That's still available through the website, yntrocks.com. You've got to get it. It's one of the best rock docs ever done. If you want to find out more about that, I did a complete review episode of it when it came out, if you look back on my channel. But Tom Allom even says, because they talked to him, he even says something to the effect, that's got to have gone gold by now. He said, I still get royalties for it. So that must
Yeah.
have sold enough to go, and this is a fairly well known. This is a guy that knows the business inside out, right?
Absolutely. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
But Rock and Roll's Gonna Save the World is just this catchy, melodic anthem that just makes you feel good. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but it's so just up and positive, and it rocks. Now, I do have to say, it sounds a little bit, the phrasing and everything. This is something I heard this first, but when I started listening to AC/DC and I heard Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution, I'm like, ah, da 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 da,
Yes.
and
Excellent.
I shrugged my shoulders and I said, still like the Y&T more. Um, and Y&T would be the first. Dave would be the first to say, we love AC/DC. So I'm sure it was probably subconscious, but it is not a direct ripoff. You know what I mean? It's just
It's not.
it puts you in mind. It's like it's that phrasing, right? But the rest of the song's totally different. You know, when it gets to that section after the solo where it's just, the spare like bass and snare drum and we
And the
need to
spoken
rock,
word.
rock, we need to roll, rock. Like it's fist in the air. It's the rock anthem that we talked about on our Mean Streak episode. When they tried a song like Down and Dirty, it didn't really work for them. This works for them. It's a
Without
rock
question.
anthem that works for them because it is still so catchy, radio friendly. Um, it's just great. It's a perfect starter.
Without question. Yeah, fantastic anthem. I mean, a song that if they decided to just do the rest of their life for the rest of their career as a live band, if they open with this, it'd be perfect. I don't know if they ever played this much live. But what a fantastic anthem. And again, the part where they go into the rock and roll. It's gonna
Yeah,
save
yeah,
the world. Don't you know we're never gonna.
yeah.
So he sings it.
Dynamics. There's those
Yeah, it's
dynamics
got
again.
dynamics. And then he screams, "We need a rock," and then you hear the crowd go rock.
Yeah,
It brings it
it
in. And
works.
the
It works. It works so well.
and the crowd at the end
Yeah,
gives it that live feel. Fantastic.
yeah. And you even hear at the very end of it a little bit of uh
Oh,
Star Spangled Banner.
Star Spangled Banner. Yes.
I mean, I know like that's probably just as much Dave paying homage to Hendrix because he loved Hendrix, but
Oh, yes.
great, great, great track. And the album doesn't let up. It goes right into life, life, life. Then the backwards guitar, and this is where they get into. This is where the lyrics get really interesting. 1984 was like peak of the Cold War, and I think the first three songs in this album are all about that. Life, life, life is basically their anti-nuclear war song. I mean, a lot
Yes.
of rock bands wrote songs like this in the 80s, and this is one of the best. And I love the whole song. I think Leonard's the star of it.
No question.
He's
Oh,
got
my
the
gosh.
he's got the John Bonham swing happening here.
He does. I mean, this song takes you on a ride because
Yeah,
it's just, um, it gets soft and it gets loud. Um, they slow down the tempo for certain parts of this song. That's the part before the solo kicks in is very interesting. They were doing some different things there, and again, Leonard shines like the sun on this track. It's an excellent song. It's a little different, but it's still very memorable. It's got the choruses like we need life, life, life. You got to get your head out of the sand,
yeah,
and we got to break down the chains of command. That was the song against the nuclear war.
yeah,
Against nuclear war.
yeah.
That was they didn't go topical, but here when they did, it worked like a charm.
I mean,
Fantastic track.
you know, when this came out, I was 9, 10 years old, and the news was all about Russia
Yes.
and the arms race and Ronald Reagan and the movie The Day After had been out, and
Mm-hmm.
we were scared to death that we were going to get nuked, and so it was ever present. It was on everybody's minds, and I think that's why so many bands did. I mean, that same year, and actually Y&T opened for them on this tour. Rush put out Grace Under Pressure. Pretty much that entire album is about the Cold War.
Yes, it
So yeah,
is.
it was extremely topical. A few years later, Sting had Russians, different type of song, but still, you know,
Yes.
it was omnipresent. Everybody was thinking about this looming threat. And yeah, you're right, Leonard. Like, you know, he's like it's not your typical
Yeah.
4/4. Dave does his helicopter toggle switch effect at the
Mhm.
solo again. Yeah, good stuff.
And the
And then
ending,
and then,
fantastic.
yeah, if it's too late, too late, too late, the
And
way
then
it
that
fades
keyboard
out.
rising up from the
Yeah,
ashes.
yeah, yeah. I think this is the first time. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the first time there's any keyboards on the album. It's not nearly as. I mean, it's there for texture. It's not smothering like it is on the next one. But
Correct.
we'll get there when we get there. But
Yeah.
then uh, maybe the heaviest song on the album, maybe Masters and Slaves. And
Yes.
they even say, and I think we both have the same version, the 2005
Yes.
remaster, which is really useful because it has a bonus track. We'll talk about that. But I'm pretty sure that someone in this band, Dave, can you tell that we had just gotten off a tour with Dio a few months before
Yes.
we penned this one? Because it's got that melodic yet sort of ominous,
Yeah.
oh no, like it's got that minor chord kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's an interesting song in the beginning. It's got the overdubs because, I mean, I say overdubs because it's physically impossible. Leonard Hayes was amazing, but you can't be on the hi-hats and also doing,
Right.
you can't be doing hi-hats and tom fills at the same time. He could do a lot with less, but he couldn't do both. But it works. I like the production on this album too, like in the drums, you know, like it's got this, the drums have the right snap to it. Talk about this in the book too. They change producers almost every time, so completely different sonics, but it was always Y&T.
Right.
This is, you know, this is another, it's very Dio, you know, do you wish, you know, do you rule or obey? Do you wish or
Yeah.
command? Like it's very Ronnie finger pointing
Hmm.
type of lyric.
Yep.
And it's great. It's fantastic. Great the shout along background vocals in the chorus, especially at the end. Yeah, I mean, we're off to a great start. We've got 3 winners for 3 songs.
Absolutely. Very, very driving song. Again, those lyrics, yes, very Dio and in a positive way. Awesome. Yeah. It's kind of become a little bit of a forgotten song, I think, in their canon, but oh, excellent track. Love
I
it.
know they did go through a period where they were doing, like a lot of bands were doing. They were doing albums in their entirety. So I
Yes.
think that they did do. I think there was a point where they did all of In Rock We Trust, so they would have had to relearn some of the songs. So we know it got
Mhm.
played some. Um, and then, so of those 3 songs, even though I think they're all very melodic, if we're talking about breaking through to top 40 radio, Rock and Roll's Gonna Save the World might have been a minor one, but a song that I think could have been a huge hit for them is the next track, which is I'll Keep on Believing, subtitled Do You Know? This is a this is a melodic rock masterpiece. I think it starts off with the clean guitar sound, and Dave's doing like the volume swell guitar. There's some keyboards in it. It's very dynamic, and this is the album that I think Dave found his voice. And he kind of, it only got better as far as I'm concerned. Like, it wasn't bad before, but he was the reluctant lead vocalist.
Right.
And I have to think that in between Mean Streak and this album that he got serious about that part of his gig and took some lessons, because his vocals got so much better on here. They're not as deep anymore. He's got more high range, and he uses it to great effect on this song. It's Dave would come to just rule at singing this type of song.
Absolutely. And as we were talking about on Mean Streak was a very melodic hard rock album, and this continues that trend. To me, you go third single, this is the single,
Yeah,
or do you put this in between
yeah,
Lipstick and Leather and Don't Stop Running, which were just two great rock songs, but this was more steeped in melody. And in '84, you still heard a lot of this kind of music, although you had more melodic heavy metal getting through at this point.
Yeah, I
And
mean, Round and Round by Rat was a big hit.
right.
Twisted Sister, We're Not Going to Take It. The public's ears were open to louder guitars, and this is more commercial still. This sounds like a really heavy Journey track almost because it's got the piano in it too.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. And the
Yeah,
thing, I think when we've talked about this band and we've talked about um lack of videos, it really hurt this band because in '84 you were watching MTV to discover music more than you were listening to the radio.
oh yeah,
And I think that's just a fact.
yeah,
Just as someone who's lived through it. So they put out videos for a couple songs we're going to talk about, but you rarely saw them.
yeah,
How can they have not? How can AMM have not put some money into a good video that the people could have jumped, young fans like us could have jumped into, and more people would have discovered it. You put out, and I think if you put out even a stronger video for those other tracks, would have made
yeah,
this album gold in 1985.
yeah. In its day, yeah, and
Right.
maybe now it would be teetering on double platinum. It could have been a very
Yeah,
different story.
I agree.
And what's weird to me is that the suits at A&M would have heard this song first. They would have heard this song before side two. And I don't know
Yes.
how you could get past this song and not have one A&R person go, that sounds like a hit to me.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that liked Night Ranger or early
Mm-hmm.
Bon Jovi or
Oh
Aldo
my gosh.
Nova, I mean, this is a hit. It just wasn't. This is a hit that wasn't, but it's got all the makings. You know what it is, John? It's got all the makings of a song that fans like us would be sick of. It should be sick of because,
Yeah.
oh, man, they're playing I'll Keep On Believing again. Good Lord. Didn't you
Yes.
play, couldn't you play another song by Y&T?
Yeah.
It's,
You're
it,
right.
and that's a nice problem for a band to have. So, um, yeah, it's just a miss. It's such a miss. And they should have made more videos and I would say better videos. But yeah, great
Right.
song. And side one winds up with Breakout Tonight! Exclamation point. Um, I've said this too. I think more bands were listening to Y&T than cop to it. Um, if you listen to the beginning of Breakout Tonight, then you listen to Rock Me by Great White.
Yep.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun. It's so similar. I'm not saying it's a copy. I'm just saying that it was out there, and this is a heavy one, but it's melodic. It's a heavy shuffle. Actually, for the third album in a row, they end side one with a heavy shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
It's another dig
Yeah.
dig dig dig. It's another one of those
Yeah.
types of songs. But a great, and this is a great anthem that I mean, they could have A&M could have put some money into did a video for this too. You didn't necessarily have to have a radio focus track to have a song that people would respond to. I mean, again, look how successful Twisted Sister got. I Want to Rock didn't hit the top 40, but how many people know that song? It's huge, right?
Yes, it
Van
is.
Halen, Hot for Teacher, another example. And Y&T were right in there when all of these bands were hitting their peaks. Um, Breakout Tonight could have been a rock radio hit. It wouldn't have been a pop hit, but it's great. It's got those dynamics in it. I like the end of it where they roll the big door up and it just ends side one literally with a bang.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anthem of Conviction here.
Yeah,
And this is something that, you know, high school kids would have been all over this song if they had heard it more.
yeah,
Another thing I like about this song, I think what they were listening to a little bit of Scorpions at this point. Because what was great about those albums around the same time by Scorpions? When Klaus would sing a line and Matthias would come in with this very quick lead line, and then they go right back to Klaus.
yeah,
And he does it on the chorus here. They do the breakout tonight, and then Dave sings "Don't Be Within My Reach," but he's playing a lead guitar part at that same
yeah,
time. That makes the song more exciting. And he was doing that. They were doing a little bit of this. I think they might have been listening to you
That's
know,
another great
Blackout
example.
or Love It
Yeah,
First Thing,
that's
you know?
another great example. Rock You Like a Hurricane was this huge hit. I mean, 25, but that's a heavy song to hit number 25. There's so many of these songs that should have, where was their slice of the pie, so to speak?
Right. And the thing back then is a radio junkie at that time. When you heard Rock You Like a Hurricane so much, you were like, how is this not a top 10? Because I'm hearing this song as much as I'm hearing the songs in the top 10. You know, and they did the charts different back
The
then.
charts were weird, John, back then, and this could almost be an episode into itself because
Oh yeah.
I think that what you had was radio programmers that were so reluctant to play anything that was remotely heavy that
Yes.
it's almost like it didn't get reported. Because if you were to look, I bet if you were to go to Billboard, I'd almost bet solid money on it. If you were going to billboard.com and find out when Rock You Like a Hurricane, we'll pick on that song when it was out. And the week that that song peaked at number 25, and you looked at the songs from 24 to 1, maybe not in the top 10, but from 11 to 24, I bet you there's songs in there that you go, I've never heard that in my life.
Or I don't remember it.
Or
Yeah.
I don't remember it. I don't remember the artist. I don't remember the song. I bet you anything there'd be songs that have not stood the test of time as well as these rock songs have.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
100%.
So Y&T should have had a few of those, at
Yes.
least a few. So that brings us to side 2, and I've got another promotional single to show off. This one's kind of neat.
Nice.
It's lipstick and leather, but they put this sticker on it, which I kind of like. This is a U.S. promotional single. Now, this is, I suppose I should mention here that all of the lyrics on this album, this is the first time, well, not the first time because they had the Seif and Shulman guys, but they actually brought in what would come to be known as a song doctor. And a guy named
Yes.
Jeffrey Lieb co-wrote all of the lyrics on this album with Phil Kennemore, and he would more professionally and commonly be known as Jeff Paris.
Yes.
That's a name a lot of you out there will think I've seen that name before. Well, yeah, he, he did albums on his own. He did a couple of albums on his own. He wrote "Crying" for Vixen, which was a big hit.
Yes.
He wrote one of my favorite Mr. Big songs, the one that's CDFF, Lucky This Time. I don't never understood the CDFF part other than the CD fast forward, but yeah, he's a good melodic songwriter. And he was brought in, and I think that's one of the things that's different about this album too. But it's great. Lipstick and Leather is this. It's got this driving, almost like you got another thing coming again, Tom Allen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just got this F sharp, which the second it comes on, you're in. And this is also, in my opinion, the song, because I've always thought that Dave Meniketti had a little bit of Sammy Hagar in his voice, but never more so than on this song, especially those verses where he's singing, he's doubled his vocal, he's singing an octave lower and higher.
Mm-hmm.
I think he sounds so much like Sammy on this. Not to mention, in the bridge, he sings "The Girl Gets Around," and Sammy had a song on Footloose called "The Girl Gets Around."
Yeah.
But it's not a copy. He just happened to have a similar set of pipes, and that's not a bad thing. But this is one of those songs that probably not a top 10 hit, but it could have been a top 30 hit because it's heavy, but it's so catchy.
It is. And I was talking about on our last episode the importance of bridges in a song. "The Girl Gets Around" is that great bridge that links into the solo. But what you get here is you get this little funky bass solo.
A little slap bass from Phil.
Yeah, nice.
And it doesn't sound out of place.
It doesn't. It works well within the song. Excellent solo here. I love the ride out, the ad libs from Dave. I've been when they're I've been kicked. I've been had. So
great songwriting. It calls back to earlier parts of the song. But you're still singing the chorus. It's great. It's a great song.
And if
I love
the
end of the guitar solo back and it goes down, down.
Yeah,
it's so good.
There's so many hooks in this song. Yes,
it's full of hooks. Yes,
and let's not forget.
I love how it ends. It ends a cappella.
It
And
does.
then
It ends
and
a
then
cappella.
without warning, it goes into one of their best songs
Yeah.
ever, Don't Stop Running. This is the only Canadian single I've ever been able to find. This is a Canadian 45 of Don't Stop Running. It's got Forever on the other side of it. Man, to me, this song sums up Y&T better than any one song because it's got everything that they're known for. It is heavy. It is melodic. It's got great guitar playing. It's got great harmonies. It's got great drumming. It's got a fantastic bridge section. It's got an interesting midsection. It's got a great pre-chorus. To me, this is just a perfect hard rock song.
And it's joyous.
Yeah, it makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good. It makes you want to get out, get in your car and just go cruising or just go on a long country road and just let it out. It is, oh gosh, yeah. This is makes you feel great to be alive. That's
Yeah,
what I hear when I
this is when the criticisms that like the PMRC and whatever religious groups are leveling against hard rock and metal. To me, this had the opposite effect. This
right.
made me want to get up and go. This made I've never been a particularly athletic guy. This song also makes me want to work out.
Yeah,
Makes me want to go running, like literally,
it does.
and improve things or learn how to play guitar. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's just, and so I guess this is a good part to talk about it because these two songs kind of go together in a number of ways. Yes, John mentioned it. You can go on YouTube now, type in Y&T American Bandstand. This is how big they were getting. They
Mm-hmm.
appeared on one of the biggest music television shows ever, Dick Clark's American Bandstand. And of course,
Yes.
when bands were on there, they lip synced, right? So they're on there doing Lipstick and Leather and then Don't Stop Running. And there's a brief interview clip with them talking to them. So they were going places. And also, these were the two focus tracks. These were the two songs that A&M graced them with videos. Now, it's weird because so let's talk about Lipstick and Leather first. My understanding, and the one time I saw the video to Lipstick and Leather or a video on Much Music, it was like in early 90s, and I don't even know why. It was a random one. All it is was a live version from the Live at the San Francisco Civic home video, which again, you got to a certain amount of notoriety when your label said, let's do a home video. So, but in the YouTube years, there's actually a version that mixes that live footage synced to the studio version, but it's mixed with some other footage, and this footage of the band at a party, and it even has a cameo from no less than Dee Snider.
He's
But I don't
rock.
ever remember seeing that video back in the day. And as a matter of fact, I've got the video compilation that they put out in '87 called Summertime Girls and All American Boys. And it's just the live clip that's on there. I did not know that there was an actual video to the studio track for that. And how did you miss that being a popular song enough to make a video for, or make a good video for? I just don't understand.
I agree completely. And same thing with me. Like I remember seeing a "Don't Stop Running" video back in the day, but I didn't. That Lipstick and Leather one is the one, especially the one with D at the end, revealing himself to be Rock. I only saw that many years later on YouTube. Same
Yeah.
thing.
And Don't Stop. Okay. For me to say that the Don't Stop Running video is cheesy and it hasn't aged well, I could say that about
Yes.
a lot of videos for great songs. I
Right.
think the ultimate whipping boy for cheesy 80s videos is probably Journey's Separate Ways,
Oh yeah.
but it's a great song. And they were so big that it didn't matter.
Right.
Y&T deserved to have videos done the way that Def Leppard did them, the way that Rat did them. Um, even even to a certain extent, Motley Crue. I mean, um, especially the Shout at the Devil videos. I mean, they took you to another place, right?
They
Um,
did.
and they've aged well. Not all it takes a lot. A lot of videos don't age well. These songs were good enough. It just would have been cool if they'd been linked to videos that people really got to do. Van Halen, perfect example, the 1984 videos. I don't know how. I mean, I don't know what I would have done as a video director, but it's too bad they couldn't have got someone like Marty Callender or Wayne Isham, even to take the approach that Wayne Isham took with Bon Jovi, just a really good mimicked live performance with the excitement of the crowd. And I mentioned I've talked about Triumph's Follow Your Heart, same idea,
Yeah.
something that makes you wish you were at a concert right now.
Yeah.
And both of those songs sounded really good in concert. So either of those would have benefited that from approach. Now maybe you could have had some B-roll, a little storyline to go in the background while the band played, but I don't know, just more missed opportunities. But yeah, people do tend to know those songs as far as songs on this album, probably more than others.
Right. Exactly.
Now the tough thing about it is that for any other band, you'd have an awful hard time coming up with something to follow those songs up. But I think Y&T do a decent enough job. Next one is interesting because it's a very specific song title that happens to share the title with another song, and that is Your Love Is Driving Me Crazy. Now, Sammy Hagar had the biggest hit of his solo career a couple of years back on Three Lock Box with a song with that title, went all the way to 13. The only difference here is that Your Love is in brackets, like that would make a difference. I have to think that with this song, they were listening to ZZ Top.
Yes,
I get an Eliminator vibe because here's this band that made possibly the most unlikely of comebacks in the 80s with this new updated electronic sound, and they sold millions and millions and millions of that.
The videos too.
And the videos, yeah. But here you have that, not only the but that and then you've got the syndromes, the do, or wherever you want to call them. I call them syndromes, but
yeah,
it's very much of its time. But it's a Y&T sleazy kind of rock song. It's catchy. I like how the chorus, I don't know who's doing it, but maybe it was Dave, but somebody had to do it live. Somebody's double tracking the vocals an octave lower this time.
Your love is driving me.
Your love is driving. And maybe that might be another Billy Gibbons thing.
Oh, yeah.
I've never read it, but I have to think, considering how popular ZZ Top were then. And it's not a clone either. I just have to think that they were listening and thinking, we should do something like that. It's a good enough song, and it's got a great bridge. It's got a really melodic bridge that lifts the song.
Agreed, totally.
Like The Eyes That Haunt You in the Dark. Like that's a totally different part to the song, but it works.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite songs by Y&T, period. I think this song deserves a heck of a lot more love. Yes, it shares the same title with the Sammy song, but that Sammy song was carried by those bright, cheery keyboards.
That was a really poppy song.
That was very pop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the poppiest song he probably ever did.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point where when he put out the Unboxed Greatest Hits album,
it's not even on there.
And that was his choice. He didn't want it on the album.
Which is weird because you'd think that automatically the label would have been like, if you look at your highest charting song, you got to put it on there. But anyway, no, you're right. But this is not like, and this, again, there's no reason why rock radio couldn't have picked up on this song. It's accessible enough.
Exactly. Another great ride out here with the little ad libs and those sparse leads from Dave.
Yeah, he's like, I got that crazy look in my eyes. And yeah. It's full of attitude. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay. Then we get She's a Liar, which is kind of a fast shuffle, almost like a Hot for Teacher kind of thing, or something like Turn on the Action by Dawkins.
Okay.
That kind of thing. And Phil says in the liner notes to the reissue that he always wanted to hear it with the horn section.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I kind of like to hear that too as an alternate, but this is not a song that would have gotten a lot of radio play, but it's still catchy. Dave, I mean, it's fast. The lyrics are fast. That's another thing about Don't Stop Running. Dave's even said it's so high and it's so fast and there are no breaks.
So
it's really hard to sing.
Exactly.
And this is kind of like that too.
It is like that. And but again, really catchy, great chorus, and then we go down into jazz again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. Yeah.
And I like the end of it where they like you
Yeah.
almost want to do
Yeah.
jazz hands.
Exactly. Yeah, you could
And
imagine. You
then
could hear a horn section on that, especially
totally,
that ending.
yeah. I mean, the
Absolutely.
Bay Area, they should have got Tower Power on there.
There you perfect. Exactly.
And then the song, which should have been a top 5 single at least this time, power ballad par excellence. Not it's not lengthy like I Believe in You. I
Right.
don't think they radio would have edited this a little bit because I think it's over 5 minutes. It's pretty long.
Yes.
But what a heartfelt, like what a, to me, this would have been a shoe in for a single. You know, I would have left it alone if I could have redone it. Still had Lipstick and Leather and Don't Stop Running being singles. I would have put it all Keep On Believing, and I would have put up this song. I would have put
Yes.
up 4 singles from this album and promoted the crap out of them because the age of the power ballad hadn't quite struck at this point, but we were very close to it, and they could have been the spearheads of it.
Yeah.
I can think of some songs that came from albums in 1984 that were ballads, not necessarily power ballads, that hit in '85, and the ones that come to mind would be Bryan Adams' "Heaven," um, "Foreigner," "I Want to Know What Love Is," and REO Speedwagon, "Can't Fight This Feeling." So people wanted to hear. Radio were responsible, or Survivor, The Search Is Over. People were responding to ballads, and they could have been among. I mean, Night Ranger had already had a big hit with Sister Christian, so to me, this is no heavier than or lighter than that, and it's every bit as potent as far as delivering that punch that you want a ballad to. When that chorus kicks in, that's just in the air as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with that. And then you had Night Ranger like the year after with Sentimental Street.
Sentimental Street and Goodbye.
And Goodbye, which had that long, amazing guitar solo at the end. And here it's just, oh God, this works on so many levels. I remember I read an All Music review and they said it sounds like a prom theme. And it does. And I mean that in a positive way, though.
Yeah.
But no, this is my favorite ballad by them next to I Believe in You. But I Believe in You is just a little more dramatic, but this has the much stronger chorus.
Yeah.
The guitar lines from Dave on here in the end of the song and the solo work very well. Yeah, this is superb. What a closer too.
Yeah.
What a closer. I mean, even the way they end the song and the album.
That's like science fiction sounds.
It's almost like the end of Black Diamond on the Kiss debut.
Yes. Yes, very much.
But that's got more of a psychedelic feel where this doesn't. But yeah, this is what a fantastic closer.
I mean, this song, I'm not even kidding. Like this song could have been somebody's wedding song. This would have been one of those. This would have been one of those first dances of wedding. It's that good. It's got that everything going for it. Like lots of hard rock bands had ballads, but not every one of them struck that emotional chord like this one did. And I think one of the other things I like about it is that Dave wrote this about Jill.
Jill, yes,
and they're still married to this day.
Mm-hmm.
How many guys from that era could say that?
That's true.
So there's a sincerity, like he meant that, when he sang it, and so yeah, big time. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it got to a certain point, sold so many, and A&M figured, okay, well, we'll just pull off promo. It'll go gold on momentum, and they could have kept. I've never understood when record labels will pull the plug on something that could potentially make them more money than they would ever. You know what I mean? Like
exactly,
it never made any sense. The only other thing that I want to show you that I've got from the In Rock We Trust period is this again, the UK. And by the way, this album was not well received in the UK.
Probably because they consider it more commercial and more of a
American sounding, or it definitely didn't have that new wave of British heavy metal approach anymore. I mean,
exactly.
This is a band that had been, this is their 6th album. They'd been paying their dues. It was time for them to hop into the big leagues where they belonged. They really should have been in that Van Halen, again, Rat, Motley Crue, Twisted Sister, these bands that were all,
Scorpions.
well, Van Halen were more, but these bands that were selling, double platinum, triple platinum. You said Scorpions, double platinum, triple platinum.
Mm-hmm.
They deserved to be in that, those types of bands. This is a souvenir EP from when they played Donington in August of 1984. That's a patch that came with it that reuses the barbed wire logo from that Mean Streak single. This has Don't Stop Running, Rock and Roll's Gonna Save the World, Mean Streak, and I Believe in You. So Donington souvenir 12-inch EP. It's
Sweet.
still sealed, and it's sealed so tight that it's not flat anymore. Again, ads for the albums. They tried over there. They really did. But so in Rock We Trust, the next album should have taken them further. But as we'll see, results varied. But that's for another time.
Yeah.
So, John, thanks for sitting in once again.
Thank you.
This Y&T Deep Dive. Hope you enjoyed it. What does everybody think about In Rock We Trust? Was it a step back, step down? Your favorite, your least favorite? All comments are welcome. We're all fans here. And thank you, everyone, once again for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions. We'll see you later.